Turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Craig Setzer. And Craig, we aren't just under a hurricane watch, but we're also under a storm surge watch as well.
That's right, and that's something new this year from the National Hurricane Center. Back in 2008 with Hurricane Ike, there was a tremendous storm surge that went into Galveston Bay and Galveston and affected areas around Houston. That was the ocean coming in to land, and they said, we've got to do something about this. We need to tell people, because it's such a deadly hazard, that they should get out of the way, and they need a heads up. So we have two watches in effect. I'm not going to show you the watch graphics because basically all of the watches are going to be up for us until they shift to warnings, and then we're going to be under warnings. In fact, at 5 o'clock we may go under a hurricane warning. The significance of that is if it's 5 p.m. on Thursday that we go under the hurricane warning, that means the expectation is that 36 hours later, tropical storm force winds are expected. So that would be 5 a.m. Saturday. We'll see. They may hold off until 11 tonight. Really, in the big scheme of things, watch warning at this point. We know that we're going to feel severe effects from Irma, and unfortunately, there's no good news in what's going on with the models this afternoon. Let's start off with the 2 o'clock update. So the Hurricane Center issues advisories for the whole forecast track every 6 hours. The next update to the forecast track will be at 5 o'clock tonight. And then every 3 hours, when there's watches and warnings up, they issue an intermediate advisory. That's what this is right here. And then when the storm is within radar range, technically, of a U.S. location, then they issue hourly position updates. So that's when we get the hourly updates, and that won't start until it gets, unfortunately, closer to the Miami radar. 175-mile-an-hour winds. Now, it was up at 185. It came down a little bit, but what is the difference? 10 miles an hour at 175-mile-an-hour winds, and that is the sustained wind. That's the wind that is just blowing at that speed, and then there are higher gusts on top of that. Moving west-northwest at 16. We're going to be watching that very closely. In fact, we will probably change this over to what we call the compass heading, because west-north, it goes west, west-northwest, northwest, north-northwest, north. Every little degree when it starts making this anticipated turn is going to be significant as far as South Florida is concerned, and I'll show you more on that in a second as well. The pressure way down there, 922 millibars, still Category 5, of course, and right now 70 miles southeast of Grand Turk Island. And the threat in terms of the wind field right here is rather large. It continues to grow, and because the hurricane is spinning this way, you have to picture a tremendous amount of water is also being pushed with it. So there's a big mound of water that is coming along with it, and the peak of the mound is right near the eye wall and the center of the storm. That's what we are watching out for, as well as the wind threat. The mound of water that's coming with the storm from the ocean, as well as the wind threat. The rain threat, we may see a half a foot of rain, but in the big scheme of things, we can handle a half a foot of rain. That sometimes is just a South Florida afternoon. Here is then the future track. There is the Friday morning position. It's near the southeast Bahamas. The Saturday morning position. Now you'll note the cone is kind of getting smaller. That's because the storm is only over here, and so as you get closer to the storm, the cone is small and it expands over time. That's the Saturday morning time frame here, and then here is the Sunday morning time frame. Remember yesterday at 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m. last night, 5 a.m. this morning, those forecast points have not moved much at all. They are still in there, and in fact, this time period here is a little faster, which may impact how the weather deteriorates on Saturday. And then it's up to the north. There's still some threat to the west coast, but that is diminishing. There is the Monday morning time frame, Category 3, and then making landfall over the Carolinas, where, of course, they are going to be concerned about a storm surge situation as well. Here are the models right now, and there is no good news in the models. In fact, here we are into Saturday in the afternoon time, and then watch what happens. There's where the turn begins to take place, and we'll add the GFS and the European model. They are also very close together, and if you kind of take an average, it is just south of Key Largo there. This is during Sunday morning, and as we go through the day on Sunday, the models move to the north, and you can see underneath the circles here, which are the bullseyes for the GFS and the Euro model, a lot of the models turn to the north there. There are still a few outliers down to the south here near Cuba. That's a possibility, but there are no models now to the east of Florida. All of the tracks are at us or a little bit to the south and west of us, and after that it's to the north. See, nothing out there. So those of you who have been hanging on each swing of the models, I'm sorry, that is not a good situation. Here is the storm surge potential. It is highest in parts of South Dade, which we're going to go over extensively in the next 2 hours because the storm surge threat with this system is significant. So here is our timeline now. Tomorrow is the last good weather day. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. The breeze is going to come up, and we're going to see some spotty storms. Saturday, the winds and the squalls increase. This will be the day where maybe early you can move, but I wouldn't plan on it. No shutters on Saturday. They should already be up. Tomorrow is the last day. Sunday, we call it the hunker down day because that's where you're going to be having to ride out the storm no matter how bad it gets.